A very good morning to you all. Welcome to Sunrise Daily today. I'm Chamberlain. Also,
we'll see who's here.
Yeah.
Amaya Makide, good morning and welcome to the show today.
I am careful not to rub it in. Otherwise, you might get more than you bargained for. Good morning from Abuja. And yes, as you can see, I'm alone this morning. Welcome. Well, I'm alone, but not alone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, most definitely not alone.
You're not alone. We're with you.
Yeah, we're right here. And before you say Jack Robinson, we could have maybe further there. So never say never. Well, yes, indeed, we have a guest to take us through some of the dailies here today. Dr. Marcelo Bamalo joins us, former editor with The Guardian, publisher, Prime Business Africa. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning, Chamberlain. Nice to be here once again.
Yeah, I mean, my colleagues were just telling me how harrowing the experience has been, for a couple of days, owing to some construction going on at the Lagos-Ibadan Axis, which we'll try and see how much of that we can take a look at, because I think they've taken a certain decision about that. But there are questions as to what happens with that current decision, what happens thereafter, what is the timeline? Just some information.
It's a lot, because sometime in July, the minister had said road work is going to be done on that road in December.
The road will be completed, right?
Completed and handed over to people by December. With this decision, although he said, depending on certain variables. Is this one of the variables?
Oh, there you go. There you go. There you go. Well, I think Dr. Marcelo has been there. He knows how some of these narratives can go. Whether or not you can take them to the bank, I guess it all depends. But let's see, which daily do we kick off with now? Do we go with This Nigeria, for instance? Okay, let's try This Nigeria and see what they lead with this morning. Dr. Marcel, let's take a look at the lead story on the front page of This Nigeria newspaper. Anxiety over Ariwola's confirmation as CJN. Senators finger leadership in plot to scuttle ratification. Falana says NJC will resist Senate's alleged conspiracy. Wow. So, yet more conspiracy on this matter. So you would have thought that I think it's ever straightforward in this part of the world.
And we are it again, the same terrain, the same road. You remember?
Wow.
The retired or resigned CJN, how he emerged, the controversy that led to the removal of the CJN that he succeeded, and all of those. I think we should be tired of these controversies by this time. Allow things to move smoothly and in line with the Constitution. In fact, I don't see the president allowing this drama to happen again, given the experience we had with the emergence of the denial of the one that, what's his name now? I've forgotten. The one that the retired CJN succeeded. On again, the controversy and all of those, and all the most people didn't actually believe in some of the allegations that were. Of course, he had to go, but not as weighty as things. Things.
The lawyers were miffed about that. They said, "How could what was that word again?" It's usually, I'm trying to remember the name, but it wasn't sufficient according to them.
Yes, of course.
To allow him.
So
to go.
if I were to advise, I would. Especially as we're going into a critical election, I would advise this administration to really allow things to intervene. Whatever the Senate is about doing or conspiring about, I think the executive arm of government can really have their way and do the right things, right, at least in this dispensation. So I think it's easy to suspect what is going on, actually, and the advice is, let's be careful at this time and do things right.
Well, just as an aside, Sarah writes Buhari seeks copy of agreement with the US. And speaking of agreements, wait, did you even ever see the agreements that Nigeria signed? Or do you have details concerning that yuan swap with Nigeria and China?
Not really. I don't have the details, but it was that.
Was it out there?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. But it was actually the idea. The discussion started with the administration of the CBN, former CBN governor, Sanusi. When that was when that idea was touted, and a whole lot of benefits were, discussed about it and all of those. And
are we leveraging on that?
No, not at all.
I think the question is on that. My apologies. Did it even ever take off?
It never did in actual sense. It was more of political discussions and all of those. It never did in actual sense. How many transactions or whatever officially, even government to government level, that yuan swap, well, if it happened, maybe behind the closed doors, in quotes, but it never was liberalized, it never was, so to speak, commercialized in terms of officially made public and usable.
Well, I guess we'll wait and see, even though there are still questions as to the agreements we signed with China, the constructions that we've signed, what are the key details, so that there will always be questions about all of this.
And then what are the obligations for Nigeria there?
So that we don't lose our prime assets for China taking them over, as we've seen in some African countries.
Exactly.
Well, look at what's at the bottom strip. 2023, IU divides PDP, threatens Atiku, Wike's talk. No deal if IU doesn't go, says Rivers Governor's camp. No, he can't go, pro-PDP chairman's group. So how is it now that it's emerged? IU divides PDP, threatens Atiku? You would have thought they were on the same page.
Well, if you
Politics
ask me,
is full of
think
tricks.
It's still there. I will shock you. It's still their internal affair. I think it was PDP that actually popularized this idea of internal affair. Is our internal affair,
Family affair.
So it's but on a serious note, it calls for concern. The major political parties are having their own crisis right now. PDP having its own crisis. I think all we are seeing is in the run-up to issues associated with the run-up to 2023 elections in terms of the candidacy, in terms of where the president has to be, in terms of or has to come from, all of those. But I think the earlier PDP, the other day we talked about, we read about the Obasanjo meeting with some PDP governors, meeting with OB, meeting with Wike and the rest. And I hope those discussions they said they were discussing Nigeria, national interest in London, fine. But I hope it will all, I don't really care about what happens within, as long as if they don't do the right things, what is happening within the party is their family affair. They should be able to resolve it. But the most important thing is to focus on the Nigerian project. What is best for Nigeria? If PDP has to die, if the major parties have to die for Nigeria to resurrect, then so be it. But I don't think they should.
They should Christ die for us that we may live.
Yes, Christ died for us.
We're talking about political parties
no, the principle or typology of a death that can save others.
He's talking about it. He's talking about the political party. There were some that were very prominent, in
they were waiting for our admonition examples.
That are no longer as relevant as they were in 1999.
Yeah, so
hey, say
there you go.
It's not straight, right? Talking about issues that are important to Nigerians. Look at the front page of Daily Trust newspaper. That's it right there. Brain drain. Nigeria's doctor-patient ratio now 1 to 5,000.
Oh dear.
Good for you.
That's a lot of weight on the doctors.
Look at the riders. Less than 30,000 practicing. That's coming from no less an institution than the NMA, Medical Association. More planning to leave as manpower shortage bites harder. Minister advocates instant replacement for departing doctors. Two things come to mind. Chamberlain once had an interview with, I think, Dr. Ngige.
Yeah.
And he was saying, quote me, we have more than enough doctors. But I did back to the Babangida government. It was at that time, Dr. Masemba Malu, if you remember, that we began to hear talks of brain drain.
Yep.
So, how come we're still having the same problem now?
Yeah, because the issues are getting worse. They are even worse then. You remember during the Babangida time when we had to bring in some structural adjustment program, the SAP and the rest and all of those things that actually asphyxiated some aspects of the economy, even though there was fluidity, there was a kind of a liquidity, money was flowing because of other things, but in terms of the structure, the economic structure, it wasn't sound. So a lot of things, people wanted to really look for greener pastures, and there were professional movements across the border, But I want to make a very critical statement about this brain drain I'm talking about. And the world is becoming a global village.
Yeah.
Even medical consultancy is done from abroad. You can be here and get treatment from. So we shouldn't really worry about. What should be worried about is what is actually the trigger for these movements. What is causing that? One, why should somebody who is paid very well in an oil company in Nigeria, for example, be going abroad? Why are doctors leaving? Why are marketers, every other person? Why are students leaving to go and study abroad? And I will give you reasons. One, you're paid well here, but the value of the currency doesn't amount to anything, because you needed to. You would need to, because if you had so much money, but that so much money cannot buy so much goods. So you need to cross the border, work in a place where you can earn even little, but you could buy as much with that little. And if you look at what is...
So the purchasing power is dwindling.
Of course, it's dwindling so much. And inflation is so high. Look at and all this, the factors are because our loan, our debt level, the debt level for Nigeria is going high. Look at what is happening. Airline operators and all that, they are not able to repatriate because we don't have the dollars. We can't source those dollars. So right now, what happens is that the value of Naira is low, and because the debt level is high. And why the debt level is high is because over there, I think most of the debts Nigeria incurred, we are borrowed on that deception that, okay, low interest rate, but we are all adjustable rates, not fixed. Because what they do, all those money, and the banks are also in trouble with that, because US, the Fed fund rate is increasing.
Yeah.
They keep changing. They've changed it 3 times in 3 months. They keep changing every month. It was 0.5%. Now it's 2.5% within 3 months. So what that means is that if you borrowed $80 million, within that period has turned to $300 million. And that's why government is sourcing for revenue, money, funds, dollars to pay those debts, and they're in trouble. So the central bank is running helter-skelter, trying to meet up. These are the things they're not telling us. But my knowledge of covering business as a journalist and my experience and interactions with the international community and everything, I know what's really happening. They're not telling us that, but the country is in trouble because of our loans.
And that's why we try as much as possible to keep saying economy, security, those are the issues that the media and Nigerians should ask politicians a lot of questions about in terms of how do they plan to address those issues? And if they're realistic, we will know. Or we'll see.
Yeah, I think this election should be, in a sense, society, if Nigeria will actually, we patriotic Nigerians, if we can talk about that, continue to talk about that, this election should actually be lost and won on economy and security.
But since when did we take on issues during the elections?
There's always the first time.
It's not late.
Okay. Better late than never.
Markwe?
I guess.
Oh, New Telegraph is the one I have for you this morning, and they are not far from politics as well. London meetings. It's wrong for politicians to discuss Nigeria's problems abroad. That's from Northern Elders. Berate Atiku, Tinubu, Obi, route for president that will be fair to all Nigerians. So they have the details for you on page 3. Still some aftermath from the London meetings there. But that's not what I'd like to focus on. They also have a bit more politics for you here. 2023 poll is contest between masses, elites. That's from Kwankwanso. I have national agenda, no special candidate, says Obasanjo visits Babangida Abdusalami. That story is on pages 2 and 4 for you. But the one I'd like to focus on this morning is this one on top of the nameplate. Merger panic grips aviation as SGF receives Oronsanye report. NCAA, NAMA, NIMET may be fused. Fans privatization recommended. The story is on page 3 of the paper. Last week we saw that the Oronsanye report, the white paper of the Oronsanye report was given to the SGF, and he had quite a lot to say about what the expectations are going to be and what a lot of government parastatals and agencies were going to witness. In your own assessment, how soon do you think that we could begin to see the steps towards this sort of merger if it were to take place?
Obviously, I don't. Thank you, Maupe. And, obviously, if you ask me, I would tell you that this is not something in the short term. It's not something in the immediate, and it's not something that can be done in the short term. A whole lot of issues actually need to be at first addressed. Like I said earlier, if you look at the issues about the aviation sector itself has a whole lot of challenge because, one, the environment, the business environment is not actually very convenient for players, for the investors, and for those who are working there, and you don't get that resolved when the incentive to really retain investment, to invest or retain investment in this climb is not there yet. And I will tell you for free that nothing would happen until after the elections have come and gone in terms of even ideation towards that, So everything you see now is about churning out information, talking about things. That's the way I interpret them. Showing out information and talking about what to do and what not to do, just for that publicity. But I think that we should focus first and foremost on getting the polity right, getting the economy right, and that will be assuring that this coming election, it might look, I'm not a politician, but I believe that the economy works better when the politics is right. So by the time we focus on that and make sure that first of all we have a free and fair election in 2023 and begin from there to look at the policies, that the discussions, all the panel reports and all the conferences that we have done and see how we can restructure this economy and get things moving again. That's when and only that time we can begin to even look at these things, mergers and all of that. The mergers, whether you merging two agencies of government and all of that. We've done that before, we've been doing that. That's not the issue, that's not the problem. The problem is that there's so much rot in the system, there's so much corruption in the system, there is so much lethargy, there's so much even ineptitude in the way we run things in that sector, not just in that sector, generally in the generally in the entire polity. So that's my take on that. So it's not something you would look to happening now, maybe perhaps until after a new climb, comes in. I don't know what is going to happen in 2023, but I believe that the future of the country could either be secured or lost in 2023. We need to get it right, and I advise stakeholders, government, to really think very clearly about that and forget personal interest and think about our dear country and move things forward.
Okay. Well, it's interesting that this merger panic is cited in the aviation sector. They also have this one here. Reps to foreign carriers jettison planned sale of tickets in dollars. Emirates rescinds decision to leave Nigeria September 1. Cuts frequencies to 4 from 14. So they still have some news in the aviation sector. But let's hope that another paper focuses on that so that you can have your say on it. Let's leave it there for New Telegraph.
Wow. Well, some decisions will be definitely made there. Selling tickets in dollars, a good thing they're putting their foot down on that one. Let's look at Leadership newspaper. The kicker there is PDP crisis. And look at the main story. State chairman divided over demand for Ayu's sack, single term for Atiku. It's ill-timed, unconstitutional, say chairman's loyalists. He must step down, opponents insist. Party chairman neck to meet as concerns mount over campaign cancel. So they have it as a big lead here.
Yes, I'm still drawn. I've been trying to avoid this PDP thing because I think it's a family affair. But then I must tell, I don't know whether you read the comments by one of their major founders, major leaders, and that's Body George. I don't know. He was talking about part of the problems, that's triggering this public show that you are seeing here today. Parts of the leadership of PDP, as it were. I think the companies are part of the their restructuring, what they are doing is lopsided. You look at the chairman from one part of the country, the BOT chairman from the same part of the country. I think Body George listed about 6 major positions from top to bottom from one part of the country. And they said, if you really want to, if you are working for a Nigerian project, then you shouldn't just disregard the South. I think, so whatever discussion they're having now should be around addressing that. And I think both political parties are equally guilty on that.
All right. You also see Oshibajo condemns wrong characterization of Nigeria abroad. So that is a matter that, a lot needs to be done to improve our image out there. So that's leadership this morning.
The Nigerian News Direct is also talking money and debt. And this is what you have on its front page. The kicker, 5.8 billion naira electricity debt. Oh boy. Stakeholders kick over sustenance of electricity supply to Togo, Niger, Benin. That story is on page 22. Well, you are in the business sector, so oh my God. I can see that. The whole Dr. Mbamalu is shaking his head.
No, I just don't understand the economic value, the economic viability of sustaining your neighbor when your family is in not just hunger, but in penury. So I think whatever the reason, government may have its own reason, talk about security, their neighbors and all that.
And I think more than that, I think one of the challenges that they have also put forward is the capacity to transmit.
Yeah.
That you can't store electricity.
Yeah. So
you need to, since you can't store it anywhere, you need to be able to transmit and to distribute.
Yes.
So if we have a letdown or drop down in the capacity to transmit, and we can't store, it has to go somewhere.
At the risk of sounding like a broken record, we've been talking about this for many years. And I keep saying that my advice has always been the same. I said, decentralize. If you want to decentralize, I said the other day, I said, if you want to shoot. You want to do something, do it. You don't do it halfway, half measures. You want to decentralize electricity, you privatize discos, distribution and generation, GENCOs and discos are now in private hands. And you retained the wheeling, the transmission, TCN, under I think part of the shares state government owned. And then we cannot address the issue of generating without being able to wheel it out and use. If you don't allow and make it a very robust law, allow people to generate electricity by themselves and be able to transmit, localize it. The federal government has nothing to do with control of power generally.
They say, transmission is a huge security matter, so they don't just want anyone to just
transmission
hold
of
us
power.
ransom.
When you generate a solar energy in your house, do you get to government to help you to will it, to be able to use it? You create some batteries, you do a lot of things like you generate electricity on your own, right? It's still the same thing. That's at the micro level. Very, very simplistic. So if you could do that, if I can generate electricity on my own in my house right now, and that's exactly what I'm doing, because I don't have the electricity. So if I can do that, so why can't the local government do that?
Well, there are two different things there.
Factories within a circle.
Yeah, but there are two different things. Okay. Transmitting to the entire country. That's one. And then generating from you say if you can generate by yourself. There's no transmission to
the entire country. There's nothing like transmitting to the entire country in this context of our discussion. For example, whatever power that's generated in Enugu, whatever
it has to go to the national grid.
No, that's what I'm saying. You just have to bypass that national grid. Power can never. What will you do with power you used to work to do this in what are you going to in your country?
There's a model that is running on Bonny Island. I'm sure you're aware of it, where they said that for 10 straight years electricity didn't blink in a whole community.
Yes, that's the point I'm making. So what security? They keep talking about national security, about power. Power is the lifeblood of life. If there's a description like that. So you can't.
That's what the government, that's their position about transmission. That's why they privatized generation.
It's counterproductive then.
Distribution.
Because if you produce and then you say, I allow production is, okay, produce, but you cannot will.
Yeah, but if they
it.
had improved their capacity to transmit, we won't be having this conversation.
I mean government?
Yes.
Government?
Yeah.
How can
they had improved it?
What has, it's not just about this current government. What has governments in Nigeria been able
government
to
is government,
and done well? Is it health? Is it what? So how do you trust that?
But now
they can improve the capacity.
How about that law in the National Assembly where they're saying, you know what, the states can then come in, local governments can generate even at the moment.
Even at that level, what you need to do is provide incentives, and that incentive is.
Isn't that what they did with amending the law, the constitution?
Oh, it's just
even though we're waiting to see how that eventually plays
give
out.
Action to rate, for example.
It's the states that will give action to. They will take advantage of the laws that have been made, isn't it?
Well. The point I'm making, I think, let's get it right here. What I'm going is that it's not you make the laws, then allow the laws to work. Do you understand what I'm saying? We allow the laws to work. For example, look at what we're talking about, concurrent list, and for example, the oil sector. So government controls everything, mineral resources, everything. Okay, but you have a situation whereby you abandon people, you get people arrested and do things or whatever. You man the areas in the south to say, refineries, illegal refineries. But people are mining gold, mining certain things in some other parts of the country, and nothing is being done. I think the best thing we can do is to implement the laws that we make. If we implement it, is that okay? But before you can implement a right, you need to decentralize some of these functions. Government doesn't have the capacity to implement most of these things.
Let's just wait and see
the central government.
What government does about that. Markwe?
Well, Vanguard has this one for you. It's political this morning. PDP crisis. Atiku at wit's end as IU, Wike dig in. IU may resist stepping down. That's from a PDP source. Atiku having sleepless nights over Wike's demands. Interests around ex-VP not disposed to requests. Chairman not appointed but elected, that's according to an ally. Why Wike should support Obi, shun Atiku, Tinubu, that's from Rivers Non-Indigens. You'll find details on page 5 of the paper. They also have this, have national agenda for country, not special candidates for 2023. I'll get you to comment on this in a bit. But look at this as well. This is the economy. Inflation, Nigerians cut spending on utility bills as price hikes persist. Number of transactions declined 24%. Price paid rises 31%. Consumers living on tight budgets. That's from analysts. So you also have the story on ASU strike. But let's take a look at this comment from former President Olusegun Obasanjo saying he's got national agenda for country, not special candidate for 2023. Did you make anything of he's also going to London as well, appearing in a picture with former Governor Peter Obi, who is now the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, and a few other politicians there, and then also coming back home to visit two former heads of state. What do you make of his visit so far to London and also within Nigeria as well? Do we think he has something in the offing?
Yep. Yeah, thank you. But I think let me even talk about the Obasanjo thing and the OBJ comment and all of those. I think love him, loathe him. Obasanjo is someone I respect and you should respect, and I still see him as patriotic, very patriotic. No matter what. Sometimes working even against his own interest. I have 1, 2, 3 things against his style and things that he do. But one thing you should know about patriotism is consistency. You cannot be patriotic without being consistent. So he has been consistent about Nigeria. But look at when Boko Haram, when Yar'Adua government actually, when the founder of Boko Haram was killed without trial, without trying to, was killed in detention and all of that. He went all the way to the north to intervene. He took the risk and went there and all of those. And if you look at political dispensation from 2015, even from 2007 to date, he has stood even against popular opinion, believing, working for what he believed in, and all of that. So he's saying, I believe that Obasanjo actually meant what he said, that he has a national agenda, not a candidate. And that's why, if he supports the candidate, look at what, for example, the current PDP candidate and all of those, he has done so many things, went back to him, apologized, he still kept his grounds, saying no. What I said before is what I'm saying. So Obasanjo is somebody Nigeria should actually take seriously, especially matters of politics, matters of governance, because he has been consistent. I think so.
All right. So the other two papers already you've already addressed what they already highlighted. That's Daily Times and The Guardian. They're all talking about former President Obasanjo.
And then on inflation.
Yeah.
The inflation thing that Mayobe talked about. We've said it before. There's no way consumption will not be affected when prices are jumping every day. There's no way our Fed rate in the US, for example, is 2.5% right now, from 0.05% to 2.5%. And people are shouting, things are getting well, but even the dollar is getting stronger. But in Nigeria, we have 14% as lending rate. So if you have 14% lending rate from the CBN, and of course you expect inflation to be like 17%. Okay, so of course in reality, in actual 14% inflation will be not less than 17%, and we have 18 point something percent in reality actually.
All right. So I mean the figures are really out there. So we're hoping that we'll have time, of course, a lot more time subsequently to raise a lot more of these concerns and issues, such that we all can see it and then be deliberate about addressing those policies, as opposed to just glossing over them or sweeping them under the carpet. Always a pleasure to have you on. Dr. Marcel Mbamalo is the publisher of Prime Business Africa.
Thank you very much.
Give us a moment, we will be back.
The trio of Governors Okezie Ikpeazu of Abia State, Samuel Ortom of Benue State, and Nyesom Wike of Rivers State touched down at the Port Harcourt International Airport after an eventful week of political horse trading in London, the United Kingdom. The past days have seen these governors and their colleagues within the PDP raise the stake in their political scheming since the internal crisis after the party's presidential primary, with reports of their meetings with the presidential candidates of the opposition APC and Labor Party before meeting with their own presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar. The governors posed for an interview with journalists, with Governor Tom first providing insight into the meetings.
For us, we are looking at the larger picture. Nigeria today is in distress. What can we do? We are looking at how we can harness ideas and put ourselves together to ensure that we get out of the present challenge we are in Nigeria today. So it is a concern that we have for our country, Nigeria. So this is beyond partisan politics.
Governor Okezie Ikpeazu of Abia State says the negotiations will involve the civil society.
We must find a way to rescue our country, not only for this generation, but for our children and grandchildren. And this is a country with great potential, and we have people everywhere. We're also looking at speaking with civil society organizations and those who have ideas, Nigerians in the diaspora.
For Governor Nyesom Wike, no amount of blackmail can deter them from saving the country from selfish leaders who are interested in seeing their children become governors and legislators.
Consultation, like I say, is still ongoing. Nothing we can say now that has been concretized. Discussions are going on, and we believe that whatever that's going on now is for the internal. You don't never mind some people who do not believe in the existence of this country. some people who are just interested in their own, some people who only know how to produce their own children as governors or members of National Assembly.
With more discussion still in the offing, the few weeks leading to the start of political campaigns promises to be more intriguing, especially within the PDP.
Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Well, yes, we'll focus on some of those matters as well as other matters. So we've got some of our guests already lined up. Matthias Sado is a member of the People's Democratic Party, former presidential candidate himself. He joins us virtually. Well, here in the studios, we've got Rotimi Johnson, who is the acting publicity secretary of SDP. He's vying for a seat in the House of Reps on the same ticket, same party. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Shablin. It's good to be here.
Let's start off with, well, Mark will introduce the other guests a little later, but just quickly, Mr. Sado, now this back and forth going on within your party, as largely also represented today in a number of the dailies. It clearly or does appear as though, look, all is not well, and if care is not taken, could this be spanner in the work of your party moving ahead?
Thank you very much, Chamberlain and everyone in the studio. I'm very sure that problems exist so that there will be solutions. The issues that you have in the PDP, like your newspaper review period, your guest mentioned that PDP has always claimed that their problems are internal problems and internal affairs, and they will be resolved internally. I respect that our political leaders should understand that what is at stake today is not about their personal interest. The task on their hands today is bigger than their individual interest. The task before us today is to look for solutions to the problems of the country. So really, everyone is going about these, having conversations here, having meetings here. But I think I want to call on the leaders of our party that we, the younger ones, particularly who are behind them, are looking up to them. We see them as their source of hope. We see them as our source of hope. We see them as people who inspire us to be what they are today. We want to become people like them. We want to become leaders like them. And so for that reason, I don't want to go into the fact that whether it is going to be a clog in the wheel of our progress, but I want to call on the leaders of this political party that they should shake hands across the table, that they should sit down and have this conversation, not for their own sake, but for the sake of the future of this country. The political situation in the country, the issues that are bedeviling the society at the moment, it transcends individual interest. It transcends above. It goes above personal grievances. I think at the moment this is a test on their personalities. This is a test on their resolves. This is a test on their interest in this nation. Like I heard Governor Otom say that it is time for them to go beyond party lines. I think our party is positioned to be able to solve the problems of this country. And if our party is positioned to solve the problems of this country, I see no reason why they should be looking outside the political party. We should be able to have this conversation within ourselves and resolve these things once and for all. It's not need for us to be beaten about this situation, that there are camps building up in a political party. It's not necessary. And let me say something, somebody, just give me a minute. Let me say something. I think one of the things that we need to address in this country is the structure of the political parties in Nigeria. You cannot have a situation.
Don't worry. You know what? We will talk about all of these matters and more because there are 4 of you on the show, so we'll have to do what we can to ensure that everyone gets to put in their bid, because, I mean, here we're looking at all of those actions that different parties are taking at the moment and how Nigerians will, or how it will affect the choice of Nigerians moving forward. But we've got Mr. Johnson of the SDP here in the studios. Your party has not been in the thick of things, so all of this horse trading, I mean, openly, may have been behind the scenes. Yeah. But that leads to lots of people saying, to them it appears as though the SDP is a non-starter.
Well, they can say so, but we have enough time to prove them wrong, because time is of essence. 2023 election has given politicians, particularly candidates, ample time to show their worth in effective communication with the electorate. Unlike before, it used to be like a sprint, but now it's like a marathon race, because you have well over 6 months before election, and we still have about 5 months before the presidential election, and our candidate is already communicating. And I know that will make a lot of difference in 2023.
Now, one of the things that, as Chamberlain has said, we hear about issues. And maybe we should begin by talking about what you or your party would say is the prime issue that you would want to take on behalf of Nigerians. During the review of the papers, our guests, mentioned the inflation rate, for instance. And records show that this is like the highest that we've been since 2005 September, where we had 18.6. Now, the figures say we have about 19.64% inflation rate as of July 2022. So that's, for instance, what's the plan?
Thank you, Ayo. One of the things we must look at when you're talking about the inflation rate is the fact that we must look at when it started rising and what are the reasons why they started rising. For instance, the productivity of Nigeria, where does it stand now? And what are the reasons that begin to affect the productivity, particularly in this particular administration? For instance, the inconsistency in the monetary policies. When the policies were not in favor of investors, particularly those who trade in dollars, many of them were scared. And you must also remember that this particular administration, being led by General Muhammadu Buhari, also had a kind of experience in 1985 that affected foreign investors. So many of them left the shores of Nigeria for neighboring countries, and some just packed their load and went back to their countries. And since around December 2015, we started having this problem because of inconsistency. And to tackle this kind of problem, number one, we must have consistent and reliable economic policies. Because if I'm an investor, for instance, I want to come to Nigeria, I don't want to take my money where overnight a leader will just wake up and say, okay, all investors in so area, pack your load and go. I will give you an example. Sometimes in 2020, during the lockdown, there was this policy by CBN, I think it's backward integration for the dairy products. And so many people that have invested billions of naira in Nigeria. There's a particular company in Oyo State that has invested billions in Nigeria, and they have to fold up because of backward integration. Any other investor, particularly for that country, will be weary of coming. And these are the things that are affecting us. Inconsistency in monetary policies, inconsistency in other things that affect our lives, petroleum, other necessities. Right. So to tackle this, our candidate with the slogan of power to poverty, we have seen that if the cost of living is not good enough, people are not smiling. Our people are suffering.
That speaks directly to the government in power at the moment in terms of the policies that they've executed and how it's affecting people. And speaking of which, we do have a representative of the party in our studios in Abuja. So we'll see what he and the Labour Party reps think of the matter. Mark?
Thank you, Chamberlain. Indeed, he's already shaking his head in disagreement here in our studios. We have with us Otumba Biodun Ajiboye, who is a member of the Media Directorate of the APC 2023 Presidential Campaign Council. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you very much, madam.
We also have with us Mr. Prince Kennedy Ahanotu, who is the Deputy National Secretary of the Labour Party. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily as well.
Good morning.
Okay, so let's have this conversation. We've started the conversation on the economy already. I think the PDP was talking about the internal crisis or the internal wrangling within its own party. But let me come to you, Otumba Ajiboye. For a number of people, they believe, and I think our first guest, Mr. Masalumba Malu, also underlined that the elections, if they're going to be issues-based, will be fought and won on the issues of security and the economy, and how the APC has managed or mismanaged it this last couple of years. I mean, the last 7 years or so that it's been in office. What are you going to be saying to those who think, look at the economy right now, look at the indicators, and are saying, look, these are not the indicators that the APC promised when it was coming into office in 2015. We thought it was going to do better, but it doesn't look like our lives have improved or have been any better since 2015 when it took over.
Well, the downward trend in the economy is a thing that everybody can see. And I will not sit before you and say it is El Dorado. I must be appreciative of the fact that, yes, we have a bit of complications with respect to the economy of Nigeria. The indices are clear. The foreign exchange, policies and all of that, even inflation and all of that. Yes, we know. But the truth of the matter is that Nigeria has not been, for some time now, a productive economy. So it is not particularly very correct to say that the APC government actually caused the economic problems. Yes, we can agree that in the times past, the economy was slightly should I say, better if you look at the indices like foreign exchange and all of that. But the truth of the matter is that this government had a lot to contend with. And our hope is very simple. We now have a presidential candidate who is more at home with economic management, who we believe can reflate the economy very, very effectively. And we can have some reference to his forward-looking performance, and the reference is just Lagos. As bad as we claim the economy is, Lagos is still, an economic giant within the West African, space, and even within the African continent. Is the third largest economy. So if we have somebody who could make Lagos work on a trajectory of projection and all of that, it means to me that we still can get Nigeria to work effectively. So
if I understand you clearly, yes, what you're saying is that you're accepting that your party has performed woefully in the area of
That's
economy.
not what I said. I didn't say that. All I said was
I was giving my understanding.
Okay, so let me give my understanding so that we can get ourselves very clear. What I've said is that if we look at the indices, particularly foreign exchange, we will see that it was low at a point and it is high now. That is a fact. But the causative factors for this situation can be, we can allude a lot of reasons. One of the major reasons why the economy went so berserk, one, the global problem of COVID affected the economy everywhere in the world. Even America is going through inflation, Britain is going through inflation. So it's not, but I mean, that's not even the issue. The issue is, secondly, the Ukraine war is causing quite a lot of displacement, economic displacement around the world.
The Ukraine war was this year. I mean, it started
that's
this year.
Exactly the point.
Let me take you to some of the papers for today. Maybe it will be a pointer to where our own problems are. I remember when the APC government took over in 2015, there was plenty of talk around how the treasury was empty, or oil prices are low, etc., etc. Today, we have one of the highest oil prices. We've had it for quite a while now, since the Ukrainian war started. In fact, ahead of the Ukrainian war, oil prices started to go up based on OPEC supply cuts. Right now, I mean, Nigeria is yet to benefit from that. Take a look at what is on the front page of Leadership this morning. They have this crude theft. Oil workers plan shutdown of sector. Our oil is being stolen on a daily basis, you know, almost in barges out of the country. Even though the Navy is disputing that, they're yet to tell us what precisely is going on. But we know that our oil is being stolen. We're not able to maximize the benefits of oil prices being this high. We were promised a diversification of the economy. There was some attempts, it would seem, in the first few years when oil prices were low, but it looks like the moment oil prices went back up, nothing was done in that regard. So isn't this more about a mismanagement problem? Because I can already see that you're talking about the resume of the candidate of your party. You're not. It seems that you're saying that this is not exactly, the economy is not the forte of the current president in the seat of power. Is that correct?
No, not exactly. Any president will wish that he manages the economy to the benefit of the common man. But you see, we must appreciate that the complications we're going through in this country, for instance, you just said oil theft. Oil theft, you know, I mean, our quota of 2 million barrels per day, we can't even meet it for a long time. And you understand that this
whose fault is that?
Well, how do we manage a citizenry who decides to say, well, pilferage will be our way out of solving a problem? So, you know, the problem is not that government is not coming up with the right policy, but that there's so much leakage in the economy. So perhaps what we need to do is to manage the leakage. If we're supposed to be doing 2 million barrels and we end up doing like 700,000 barrels or something, I mean, you should know that there must be a problem within the production area of crude oil. The citizenry have taken a lot of actions that are not quite reasonable in the area of theft. And that is why we have a problem with this OPEC stuff, the OPEC quota and all of that. So I think, and I think basically to resolve that problem is to look at our internal problems with respect to theft.
So you're asking us to blame the citizens?
Well, who do we blame?
Well, let me come to you, because the questions as to whatever happened to the place of law and order and enforcement of that in the society. But let me ask our guest from the Labour Party, Prince Ahanoto, about what the plans of your party are. Your candidate is surprisingly proving to be the dark horse, it would seem, or maybe not so dark anymore, because, you know, he certainly has a following, from what we understand, it is no longer about him or Labour Party, it is a movement, so to speak. But the issues are real. Beyond what it is that we're saying, beyond the movement itself, the issues, the myriad of problems that bedevil us are real. Let me take you up on this issue of oil prices, oil theft, and even the management of our oil economy. What is your own party proposing, considering the fact that Labour over the years has said that, you know, has been very adamant over the issue of subsidies. And it's been one area that many governments have found it very difficult to manage. What would your party be proposing differently to help Nigeria maximize the benefits from its oil proceeds?
Thank you, Mope. One of the guests in Lagos said something about production, and I'm also happy that my brother here, Ajiboye, mentioned production. The Labour Party, as you know, is the only political party that represents the populace by virtue of their logo, which is the only political party that have human face. And you can't talk about humans without talking about their welfare. In the Labour Party, our philosophy is social democracy. And His Excellency Mr. Peter Obi, our presidential candidate, have made it clear that he's coming to return Nigeria from consumption to production. You've asked me a question about oil theft, about all the leakages and the things that are happening with the economy. Yes, we are not producing here. We are consuming. So a whole lot of things are going around the country because people are not engaged. People are not doing anything. Families are hungry. Every day, I'm surprised that my brother don't want to. Leadership is all about taking responsibility. The first thing you should do to Nigeria is to accept that you have failed. You have failed them. For the past 7.5 years, you have failed to give them good governance. You failed to deepen leadership. You failed to engage the citizens. And that is why we have what we have today. Our party, the Labour Party, doesn't believe in blame game. We are coming with job-led economy to close up these revenue leakages by making sure we monitor the procurement processes. It's another area where people push away money, and all manner of activities are going on in that in the process of procurement. And Labour Party has come or is coming. Campaign have not started. When campaign starts, we'll give you in details. Of course, we are the only political party that have manifesto, documented manifesto. When it's in the public domain, you will see in details how we are going to tackle these issues of the economy, these issues of theft. When you push people away from the street and you engage them, when you engage the citizens, Mope, there won't be theft. When you engage the citizens.
For people who are now used to free money, it's very difficult for people who have been engaging in something as lucrative as oil theft, for them to be given other options, unless, you know, well, there's no solution that government cannot come up with. After all, we saw amnesty being given to militants at some point. So there's no solution that's beyond government. But we must admit that when people are used to a certain level of wealth, it's very, very difficult for you to say, go to something that is less profitable, you know, for something that has profited them over the years.
It's a policy problem.
But I want to ask you about subsidy. Has your party given thought? Because, I mean, the amounts of money that we hear that the Nigerian government is committing to subsidies, especially petroleum subsidy, is mind-boggling. I'm sure you've heard, I think about, is it 18 billion naira per day or per month? We're currently, we've already run through 4 trillion naira already this year on subsidies alone. And I know that is one area that the government has had a back and forth with Labour over the issue. Has your party been able to conceptualize what it intends to do around the issue of fuel subsidies?
Yes, like I said, production will solve this problem. Once we start refining our oil here in the country.
Yeah, but in the meantime, while the refineries are being built, what is going to happen?
How long does it take to build refineries? And it's only it's an accountability issue. How much do they use to transport this oil where they are refining it? And how much is it taking to be brought into the country? It's about accountability. If you are sincere about oil subsidy, it's sincerity that we need in this case. If you are sincere about it, tell Nigerians this is how much it costs to transport it to the place where you are refining it. How much does it cost to bring it back to the country? What are the market prices? How much will the buyer, the ordinary consumer, pay? If you can be clear about some of these prices and marketing structures, the citizens won't complain, even if the oil is available at 400 naira. And people are gainfully employed, the economy is stable, they don't mind to buy it. I don't see any reason why Nigeria should be talking about oil subsidy. I don't see any reason.
Okay, you've talked about going from consumption to production.
Yes.
And one of the reasons why a lot of Nigerian entrepreneurs actually complain is about the cost of production. Like, is it producing your own electricity? Is it, you know, the general cost of production, taxes, etc. The fact that Forex is not stable. These are some of the things that impact and makes production unattractive here in Nigeria. I don't know if you've been able to dissect some of these issues and what precisely you hope to do for entrepreneurs to make sure that production is more attractive here in Nigeria. I'll let you respond to this question when we come back from this break. Please stay. was talking about the 2023 elections and the issues that will define these proposals. To have two guests here with us now. Studios, Otumba Biodun Ajiboye of the APC and Prince Kennedy Ahanotu of the Labour Party. And I was just asking you a question before we went on break about what your party is going to do to see how it can work on the cost of production to make it more attractive for entrepreneurs.
Thank you, Mope. You mentioned something about people having access to free money. It's simple. You have to cut down cost of governance cost in Nigeria. And His Excellency Mr. Peter Obi, as you know, when he came to Anambra State as a governor, he was the only governor that decided the number of vehicles that follows the governor. He was the only governor that travels alone across the country. He leaves Anambra to Abuja alone.
You know, some things are going to be a bit difficult when you are president, because when you're president, you cannot dictate to the DSS or the state security how to do their work.
As a governor, you have access to, you have authority over your DSS and the number of securities you
but as a president, it's a little different.
Yeah, you can control the number of people you travel with. This one that Nigerian president will travel to UK and have the aircraft filled with people that doesn't have anything they are going there to do. Are you trying to justify that? So some of this cost of governance has to be cut down. There is no need having the president move with over 50 vehicles at the same time. There is no need for that. There is no need, trying to engage people that are not doing anything, just come to the office and sit down every day, because you can't create reasonable employment for them. So when we assume office in 2023 and both say that, I am sure that His Excellency Mr. Peter Obi, number one, will cut down cost of governance. Then politics have to be made less attractive. We don't have job, only politics that is trending now. That is why a lot of people will pay 100 million to purchase a farm, 50 million to purchase a farm, because they know it's the only lucrative job in Nigeria. So those are areas that the party are coming with their manifesto to work on. Politics, public trust, political leaders is about holding trust for the people. It's not an opportunity for people to come and build empire for themselves, deny the citizens from basic amenities and education, and just like we used to have public schools. But today, people boast of having private universities of their own with the cost very high. So the policy we are coming with is about balancing the system, balancing the country in terms of production. And again, you mentioned something about high cost of production. Cost of production, yes. We have much interest in importation. The moment the government of Labour Party comes on board, importation, we have to put some restrictions. Rather, we will encourage people to export. How can we be importing even toothpicks in Nigeria? How can we be importing when we have Kaduna fabrics, where we make fabrics in Kaduna? We have all manner of natural resources. We are not exploring them. We are not taking advantage of these natural resources that God has blessed Nigeria with. Rather, we import even chairs. I don't know if this one I'm sitting on is imported. We have good carpenters. So it's time for us to now look inwards, begin to develop our own technologies. Look at Ajokuta steel. It's lying low. And this is a place that should be able to feed Nigeria. Look at vast lands we have in the north. Agriculture. People come and make it audio. They talk about it, but they don't practice it. So these are areas that government of the Labour Party are coming to work on.
Let me flip this conversation now to Lagos. Gentlemen.
Well, Prince, we can tell you he's not imported. Just look at the label. You see that he's made right here in Nigeria. But let me take this to Mr. Sado. There are many who look to PDP, even the APC, and they feel, look, some of the promises that will be coming from those political parties, we heard, even if they, quote unquote, were new or modified, they will look to the people and the party they represent and think, but we've had something from these parties, and if it turns out that they were not satisfied, chances are that they may not look that way again. So for those category of people who feel, well, I'm not exactly sure if I should look to your party or the other party because they see persons from those parties moving from one to the other, thinking they're almost birds of the same feather. Why should they even stick? Don't you think that is going to affect, perhaps to a large extent, how they decide whether or not they will root for your party or not, Mr. Sadu?
Thank you, Chambani. I was beginning to feel like a spectator in the program. I think that we were quite rightly so. The situation in the country at the moment warrants for people to begin to think about alternatives to the political situation in the country. The APC chap in the studio seems to be so disappointed that someone will come on air to speak about what we can see clearly, that the party has failed, and that the political party as for APC, between APC and PDP, it is as clear as day and night. So the choice before the Nigerian people today is to look at what PDP did in the 16 years of PDP and compare it to the 7 or 8 years of the APC. Now, because the APC has failed as a political party, the APC has decided not to market themselves on the achievements of this political party in government. And that is why they keep talking about a man who has track record in Lagos. Look, for goodness sake, we are talking about the situation here. The party, the APC, has the proclivity for trivializing very, very important issues. What was the situation of security in the country when PDP was in power? How much was it? Was the price of naira to dollar when PDP was in power? How much was it? There was the price of rice when PDP was in power compared to now? Now, these are the questions that Nigerians need to honestly ask themselves. I know that a lot of people are disappointed that the PDP could not zone the presidency to the south, and as some people expected. But I want to make certain clarifications here. The political party, being a political party that was in opposition, our chances or choices were limited. We had to come up with a very pragmatic way to ensure that we are able to put a team together that can win the election. And some other people some committees were set up to look into the decision of zoning. When the people who were part of this political process or part of these political processes, after they signed on to the agreement that, okay, let us go ahead, let the team sit down, have a meeting, and decide whether to leave this contest open or to zone it to a particular area, and it eventually came up with a result. And they said, oh no, we cannot deal with this. And I think it's disappointing because these are not the issues that we should be looking at the moment. We should be talking about the plans of my candidate, Atiku Abubakar.
Perhaps a good way to look at it, Mr. Sadu, also speaking in the same breath, you mentioned the fact that PDP was in opposition. Well, PDP still is in opposition. And the question a number of people will be asking is, what significant role did the PDP play as an opposition party? You know, there are those who would reference that PDP is supposed to be some kind of alternative, offering, some ingenious ideas or concepts or perspectives to the current realities at every time, even before we got to this point. But it would seem like PDP was a lot more preoccupied with its own internal wranglings than the interest of the nation. And here now, you just want power given to you by the people.
Well, Ayo, thank you very much. PDP has, and you see, because a lot of people look at the political party as just the entity. But there are individuals within the political party who are like my very self, are continuing to bring out ideas and solutions and alternative views to what the political party of the APC government was presenting to the people. I spoke about how Nigeria needed to look at how to revolutionize the agricultural sector to ensure that we become a society that can feed the entire continent of Africa. I did a couple of documents about that. I'm a member of the political party. I'm a member of the PDP. I've spoken about how we can run an economy that is driven by education, by knowledge. My candidate have also spoken about these things. A lot of these things are everywhere. In fact, the entire national space is littered by ideas and alternatives, options to what we have as a government today. Okay. So really, if anybody is saying that PDP has not played a position of opposition, what were you expecting us to do? Were you expecting the party to go on the street and start demonstrating like lawless people? No, it is not our job. It's the job of the, maybe you cannot perhaps mistaking us to be activists. We are a political party. Our ideas we are communicated in a way that people saw it, but while I think one of the reasons why majority of our people today keep talking about the fact that PDP has not stayed as an opposition is simply because a lot of people don't pay attention to the things that they hear. People just want to hear what excites them. Okay. People want to go with the friends. People want to go with
There's a lot more to come on that, Mr. Sado, but let me bring the conversation here to Mr. Johnson. Well, Mr. Johnson, perhaps the same thing for you. Any party that is not in power is an opposition. Yeah. So the question a number of people will be asking is, there are so many issues that people are contending with. The front page of one of the dailies today, for instance, says there is the ratio of doctor to patient in Nigeria is 1 to 5,000. One doctor taking care of 5,000 people. Education, I don't even know where to start with that one. Of course, we've just mentioned health, transportation, all the various issues that contend with Nigeria. If an SDP position on all of these issues, take 1, 2, and tell us, okay, these are the things we should have done as a nation, whether at the federal level or at the state level, that we've not done.
Thank you, Ayo. We must first look at it that one thing is evident, even from these reports, we have vast human resources, but we have not been able to deploy these human resources to benefit us locally, and that is failure of leadership. It's a serious failure of leadership because we need to have enabling environment. Some of these people are leaving the shores of Nigeria not just because of career fulfillment. Many of them are leaving because of insecurity.
But there are those who will also say that some of these issues didn't just start today. For instance, one of our guests was contending about the exchange rate, Yeah. And that's been, it's an issue that's been progressively degenerating over the years, over the decades actually.
Of course.
Look at education as well. It would seem like we continue to increasingly or decreasingly pay attention to it. Health, the same thing. PHC was very high in the 90s.
I agree with you.
But now, so it's not something that, just a second, it's not something that is restricted to one government, but one would expect that any government in power at any given point will look at these issues and say, in another 10, 15, 20 years, this is where we want to be.
There must be a discussion. We must go back. And that's why the issue of restructuring
and how should that discussion happen?
If we don't sit down and renegotiate our existence, I'm not talking about secession now, restructuring. Because if we can't utilize and maximize our human resources, then we are not the better for it. We have great research institutions. For instance, many of them are on strike now. We have higher institutions, we have universities, our students are at home. And we need to create an enabling environment for people to stay and desire to work in their fatherland. The electricity generation is not there. Insecurity, you're talking about insecurity. People leaving the shores of Nigeria is not new. In the 90s, I was still very young then, we were talking about Andrew checking out. So it's not new. But today, we are talking about Japa. Everybody wants to leave the country. So we need to sit down and look critically. And that's why my presidential candidate is talking about prosperity. He's talking about adequacy in everything, having adequate security.
Mr. Johnson, we've been looking and sitting down for many years. Let me, I don't know, you want to ask a question, Jim?
Yeah, you know, just a little
detail.
Almost the same thing, actually, but I'm just looking at the big picture because, you know, you have several people who have equally thought the same way and asked the same question. And, of course, with due respect to your party and your candidate, we do know that in 2019, your presidential candidate at the time, I think it got about 34,746 votes in that election, compared to the winner, eventual winner of that election. I think it was about 15,191,847, the president who's elected now. And many ask, look, why do your party, for instance, and other parties as such, contest these elections in the first place, wherein they know they can't pull as much vote? So why don't you just leave it all out and leave it to our 3, 4, 5 political parties? Let Nigerians focus on that one, such that at the end of the day, we can make some quote-unquote meaningful decisions moving forward.
Thank you, Chamberlain. You know, as we were asking that question, what came to my mind is that I've failed the exam before, and I didn't stop at attempting again because I failed. That because I can't pass, I will not attempt again. You know, it is the Nigerian project, and we can't afford to leave it to them. We have discovered that APC and PDP, they have been doing leadership exchange program or rulership exchange program, and Nigeria has not been better for it. There is a need for a third or even a fourth force. We need to contend and rescue Nigeria from these people. We can't sit and fold our hands.
So is SDP a third or fourth force?
SDP is the third force.
Third force?
Yeah.
Compared to what? Labour and NNPP?
Well, and SDP as a political party is the third force. And Labour Party, well, because of Peter Obi, is beginning to gather momentum, but I don't know how far they can go with that. But we are talking about the political party with structure all over Nigeria. That's SDP.
SDP has that structure?
Yes, it does.
You have leaders elected in different states?
Well, not as elected. I'm talking about the party structure now, not as in government. Yes, we still have a few. We have a serving federal honorable, for instance, even in Oyo State, that is on the platform of SDP.
Let me ask Otumba Ajiboye this next question, because what people expect, as all other guests have said, is what we require is leadership. Your party came to power, and almost every turn points to 16 years of PDP's government. And even in speaking the other time, when Markwe asked you, are we blaming the citizens now? You said, who do we blame? So the question then is that to say that the APC is overwhelmed by these issues and expects that since this current president has been unable to handle them, to put it nicely, then we should give APC another time, another opportunity to let someone else handle it? Is that what you're saying? That APC is incapable at this point, but give us extra time? Let's repeat this class.
Ayo, that is not what I'm saying at all. There is no government that is capable of solving all the problems of a nation. Are you saying that you have not seen the good things that APC has done? I marvel at the kind of comments coming from a PDP representative on this program. But let us not even worry about that. Let us begin to talk about the good things APC has done to this government. Look at infrastructural development. Look around you and see roads and see bridges. You know, the Niger bridge. You know, the bridge in the east. Look at the Lagos-Ibadan. You know, look at rail system. Infrastructure-wise, this government has done very well. Somebody was talking about rice. During the era of PDP, we were importing 90% of the rice we consumed. Today, we produce 90%, if not 95% of the rice we consume. Doesn't that look like some progress? So, but the issue here is simple. When we have problems, the most important thing is to see how to tackle and solve the problems. Let us look at the leadership, the presidential candidates that put themselves forward for 2023 elections. Let us start with Atiku. Let us, you know, go to Obi.
Okay, Otumba.
I don't even know the presidential candidate of SDP, but they have a presidential
Otumba, don't worry.
And let us look at the presidential
they will respond to you in just a moment. Trust me.
Let us look at...
Just calm down, Otumba. We need to go to break. It's imperative. But just give us a moment. We will be back. All right, gentlemen, we're winding down now, so we'll try and see how you could, if you could keep your responses as short as possible, such that everybody can chip in. It will be greatly appreciated. But Otumba, you did raise or throw some salvo at the SDP and the PDP, so let's get the PDP to respond to some of what you said. Mr. Sado, you heard Mr. Otumba saying he's surprised that your party is saying this when you were voted out in the last elections, in the manner of speaking, he says.
Thank you, Chamberlain. And I'm so glad that, yes, we are at this point. Unfortunately, we were not able to look at the most important issues today because of the fact that we needed to branch at the issues around my political party. And that is okay. But most importantly, I think that what is before the Nigerian people today is to make a decision between those who have the capacity, those who have demonstrated the capacity to lead the country, those who have been able to provide solutions. I think if you go through Alhaji Atiku Abubakar's document about his plan for the country, you will be clear. It will be clear that it will be clear to you that he's a man who has the desire to fix the problems that this APC government has created for us. The person Ajiboye is talking about the fact that they have fixed infrastructure and all that. But I, like you said, there is no time for us to be able to, bring out all that.
Rightly so.
Talk about
that's why I need to just jump in at the moment and just let the SDP rep also just have his say before we move on.
Well, let me just let Otumba know my candidate, and that's Prince Adewale Adebayo. And he's the youngest of the prominent presidential candidates. And I think you should go and read more about him. Well, APC and PDP, I was beginning to like Mr. Sado until he started telling us that they had to take some decision just because they wanted to win the election because the party is in opposition. It's not the only party in opposition, and we need leaders that will be more mindful of other factors other than winning election. You must consider the next generation. You must consider the Nigerian project. All PDP is doing is about, and that's why they are traveling all over the world to go and hold meetings. It's not about Nigeria.
Yeah, but you equally said the Labour Party is not a force, that you are the third force.
Yes, we are. I've not said anything
much more than the Labour Party. You think you have more traction than the Labour Party?
Yes, I believe very, very much. I believe very, very much that SDP is better positioned in terms of what we are bringing to the table and the candidate that is leading us into the next election as the captain of the team. I believe we are very, very better positioned to rescue Nigeria because you talk about manifesto. They were talking about manifesto. I know how very beautiful APC manifesto was in 2015. To what extent have they adhered to the manifesto? Even PDP. Look at the manifestos, you see that there's just a little tinkering with the semantics.
Have you looked at Labour Party's manifesto?
No. I've not, but I've had opportunity to hear Peter Obi several times, and I know that he's a man that is marketing himself, not even the Labour Party. So he's talking about character, he's talking about competence, he's talking about capacity. Yes, I agree with him on those points, but I don't believe that the party as an organ is well positioned to rescue this country because it's not a one-man show. You need a team, a formidable team to work with you. It's not all about Prince Adewale Adebayo, for instance, and that's why some of us have to join force with him. Who are those people running with Peter Obi, for instance? It's not a one-man show. Yes, as much as I like him because he's talking about solutions the same way my candidate is talking about solutions, but it goes beyond a one-man show. We need a very formidable team to be able to rescue this country, and that's why Nigerians must look beyond the party and the noise. Focus on the character
Prince Ahanutu, he says Labour Party is all about noise.
Okay, I don't quite agree with him. I don't understand what he means by Labour Party being all about noise. Of course, everybody is seeing what is happening in the country. For the first time in the history of Nigeria, people, the young generation, wants to participate in governance process, and this has been lacking. People should ask themselves what is about to happen in 2023. You asked a question about PDP and APC playing opposition, PDP cannot play opposition to APC because they are the same. They are best of the same feather. And Nigerians are saying no to both of them. That's the truth. If you are sensitive enough, you know that their time is up. Who is the national chairman of APC today? A former governor under PDP. Who is the presidential candidate of PDP today? A man that introduced this thing called APC to us, a man that brought a political party that has divided Nigeria across ethnic lines, across religious lines, across even social lines. So they are the same. But Labour Party is a political party that represents social democracy. That's the only political party that have human being as their logo. Others have inanimate objects. But we believe in the family. Family is the micro unit of every society. The failures we are experiencing in the society today caused by APC and PDP is because the family unit have failed. So Nigerians are willing and ready to push them away in 2023 general election. About my candidates and about structure. What do you mean by structure? Structure is about people. Structure is about institutions. So Labour Party is a political party that has national officers, state officers, local government officers, ward officers, and even polling unit officers. And then 2023 general election is going to shock a lot of people because the innovation we are enjoying today, the beavers, the electronic transmission of results, have made it difficult for anybody to rig an election. And they are counting on, those are the strategies I know that APC and PDP are counting on to rig an election. 2023 general election is not like 2014. 2014 was about propaganda. It was propaganda election. 2023 is credibility election.
No, but there's been another election. There was 2019 election. I mean, there were elections in 2019
2019 election, assuming these beavers was available by then, my sister Maupe, you would have seen that there was a clear victory to some political parties. But it was not there. So I don't want to go into 2019, but I know that 2014 was propaganda campaign, and 2023 is issue-based. It's going to be about competence. It's going to be about character. It's going to be about personalities that are involved in the contest. It's not about anybody coming out to tell Nigerians that this is this, this is that. We are focusing on competency of the candidate, on credibility of the candidate, on antecedents of the candidate.
Well, let me come to you. How do you think your candidate will fare on these parameters which Prince Ahanutu has stated?
Maokwe, it is very simple. Let any of those candidates tell us exactly what they have done before. Obi of the Labour Party is an importer.
Mr. Peter Obi.
Mr. Peter Obi is an importer. He imports domestic items, beans, potato, tomato, and all of that. He just told me that, well, Nigeria produces, they are going to be doing a lot of exports. Obi has spent all his life to do importation. No. Didn't he know that we grow beans here? But let us look at one major factor.
What facts do you have in respect of that?
Thank you.
No, it's a fact that he imports. He's an importer. Isn't it a fact?
I know that he has a few businesses.
He's an importer. It's not about few businesses. He is a big importer. Please research, and that's a fact. But let me go to the main point so that we don't waste time on this one. The point here is put all the four candidates together. Put them, line them up. Tell me who has a performance reference that can be pointed to. Maybe financial inclusion, economic development, the infrastructural development. Lagos is a model. And we cannot leave a performance reference as big as Lagos and begin to talk of Anambra, where the man himself could not point at anything he has done. So what are we really talking here? In terms of every aspect of life, be it security, Lagos was having a lot of security
Gentlemen,
challenges in 1999.
Gentlemen, we are totally out of time now. I am afraid that I wish we had more time to speak, but in the coming days, we'll see how we can do it. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on this morning. We've been speaking here in our Abuja studios with Otumba Biodun Ajiboye, who is a member media directorate of the APC 2023 Presidential Campaign Council, and Prince Kennedy Ahanotu, who is the Deputy National Secretary of the Labor Party. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on Sunrise Elite this morning.
Thank you.
We have to take, let me quickly flip this to Lagos now.
Well, yeah.
I guess that's also round up.
Oh, absolutely. We have to also thank them for coming on. Rotimi Johnson, Acting Publicity Secretary of the SDP in Oyo State, is also vying for a seat in the House of Representatives on the same platform. Then we've also had the privilege of being joined by Matthias Sado, who is a member of the PDP. He's also been a presidential candidate himself. Gentlemen, thank you both for coming on today.
Thank you very much, Ambedin.
All right, so we will be back in just a moment. Stay with us.
It's a weekend, and when most road users would have thought the road would be as free as a bee, they guessed wrong. The gridlock of the past couple of days has turned minutes' drive into hours. The Federal Ministry of Works had suspended the construction work on that axis for a day to plan and make provision for required improvements in traffic management on the road.
It's not what one can be experienced often, you know.
Road users are angry and insist that the contractor can get the job done without the lingering hardship.
Over 2 hours.
From where?
I'm coming from Abeokuta.
Wow. So can you talk to us about your experience?
Very, very, very terrible. Very, very terrible. They should please and do something.
5 hours. What kind of nonsense is this? Conversion don't carry people inside motor. What are they doing? 3 hours.
You have been in the traffic for more than 2 hours now. You are tired. Why this now?
Amid the gridlock, traffic management officials continue to face the challenge of those driving against traffic. The acting controller of works in Lagos says the traffic situation will be better in the coming days.
It's only about 1.3 kilometers that is causing this gridlock that you are seeing, that is causing the traffic you are seeing. And we are working hard to make sure that within the next 1 month, we finish the 1.3 kilometers and deliver it. And you will see by that time, the traffic would have eased. So we are not expecting that motorists will go through this till December 15 that we are mandated to deliver the road. We have plans to start night work, but we have not started. It's in the pipeline. We will soon start night work.
So what is stopping the night work?
The logistics. We haven't put logistics in order. Once the logistics are in order, we have the traffic management agencies, officials and security officers to be on guard to secure our workers. Then we start night work.
As motorists hope for a smooth and a free-flowing traffic in the coming days, traffic management officials are also appealing to road users to desist from driving against traffic and obey all dedicated road diversions along the road. Dari Idum, Channels Television News.
It's interesting that I'm going to be talking about Lagos-Ibadan Expressway from here in Abuja, but sometimes it does work like that. We understand that for the past couple of weeks now, it's been hell for those who had to use that Lagos-Ibadan Expressway because of the traffic gridlock there occasioned by work that is currently ongoing. But perhaps to shed a little light as to what is going to be done to ease the traffic on that road, we have with us this morning Mr. Adedamola Kuti, who is the Director Federal Highway Southwest. Thank you for joining us this morning on Sunrise Daily.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm sure you saw some of the comments of passers-by on that road. They are obviously not happy. Those who will have cause to use the road today, I'm sure they will be already quaking in their boots as to what the road is going to offer them. So what do you have to say about how the planning for this particular job, because you know it's a high-density road in terms of the traffic usage. So would you say that there was some problem? Did you not envisage that you were going to see this sort of problems, especially with traffic, and put in place adequate traffic management procedures before going ahead with the work?
Yeah, thank you very much. Like you rightly stated, this is about the busiest road in West Africa, if not in the whole of Africa. And recall that we started this reconstruction work some time ago, and as at today, we've been able to achieve about 37.5 kilometers already completed on that stretch of Section 1 from the old toll gate up to Shagamu. Now, we are on the final lap. This is the final stretch. You see, in terms of, we got our traffic management plan approved, and we created diversion. As a matter of fact, it's a moving traffic. You know, it's not something that is stationary. And what are the factors responsible for this gridlock? They are man-made problems. One, some drivers decided to drive against traffic, especially on that particular Friday, you know, driving against traffic, coming in through Warewa, busting out at Opik Junction, you know, now driving against those who are coming out of Lagos. Because on that stretch, we are working on the inbound Lagos. Now, the second factor that is responsible for all these things, it's, you know, when people pick passengers, especially at diversion areas, you pick passengers, you drive against traffic, there are major issues. And then, of course, when you have breakdown or any accidents. For breakdown, we have our towing vehicles that are on standby to assist them in pulling off those vehicles. But when you look at the issue of driving against traffic, it's been an issue we've been contending with right from the beginning. And we keep urging our drivers to play whichever way. As a matter of fact, that traffic on that stretch on Kara Bridge end, it will not extend more than about 5 kilometers. And with 5 kilometers, if you do small arithmetic, you cannot exceed 15 minutes to 20 minutes on that stretch. 15 minutes to 20 minutes on a stretch of 5 kilometers, you know, and you are driving at 20 kilometers an hour. When you drive on 20 kilometers an hour, on 5 kilometer stretch, within 20 minutes or thereabout, 15 minutes, you are out of that area.
Well, let me take this to Lagos, because I'm sure that those who are experiencing this will certainly like to get their questions in. Gentlemen.
Well, thank you, Malkwe. Well, Mr. Kuti, you know, one of the challenges that a number of people would, I mean, we saw the release that came from the, you know, the Federal Ministry of Works and all of that. You know, the question that one would want to ask is, I mean, given the plans that you said was in play, and all of the and other issues, other plans made out, alternatives and all of that, it would seem like none of it was in play at all. Because just as you said, of course, we know that government wouldn't want to bring untold hardship on people. So what happened to those alternative plans that were in place, that you said was approved, that would have alleviated the problems, the road gridlocks that people experienced?
Thank you, Ayo. You see, the plan on that road that we are working on the inbound Lagos, the outbound Lagos, we made it free. We made that outbound completely free, so that anybody leaving Lagos has nothing to do with what is happening on the inbound. And then on the inbound Lagos, where we are working, we divided the road into two. Walk on one half of the road, to accommodate, and then of course you leave the remaining half. That half can accommodate 2 vehicles at the same time. And once you are within a construction zone, you cannot go beyond 30 kilometers an hour. That is the allowable maximum speed. So it's a moving traffic. But you know, once you see influx of vehicles, especially at peak period, then drivers begin to look for, a lot of them don't want to be, they don't want to stay
perhaps
inside
the challenge
traffic,
then,
and I
Mr.
think that has
Kuti,
contributed largely to what we experienced.
Perhaps the challenge then is that some things, maybe some other things, some other factors were not put into consideration, and here is why. You know that at the junction, one of the areas along the route that you're talking about, inbound Lagos, there is a U-turn right in front of OPIC. I'm sure you know where I'm talking about. So this U-turn has heavy vehicle at certain times of the day. And at that junction, the road is really, really bad. So making a quick U-turn isn't something that can be easily done. There were attempts by road traffic officers to stop traffic and pass this side and pass that side. That didn't quite work. And as a result of that U-turn, which usually has a tailback, it goes as far as from that OPIC that I'm very sure you know, all the way to 7-Up, which you know is quite a distance. So now that the construction has been suspended for now, how long is this going to take? And what's going to happen when construction resumes? Because I'm aware that the minister said that this road will be delivered by the end of this year.
Thank you. We have not suspended work. We only suspended work on Saturday, just to ensure that so many other things are put in place. And the area you mentioned, that OPIC area, you see, what we do on that road is that we do continuous palliative. And of course, we experience heavy rains in a couple of days. That must have contributed to the bad nature of that particular U-turn. And whichever way, even if any vehicle is making a U-turn at OPIC, those who are still heading towards Ibadan should go unhindered. But what you discover is that some vehicles who have taken, drivers who have taken the earth road, driving against traffic, they also want to maneuver to enter from that area. And that has been our problem. So the issue is palliative works. We are providing palliative works on a continuous basis. As a matter of fact, over this weekend, we ensured that more palliative works were done on Saturday and yesterday Sunday. So even this morning, work is resuming this morning, and then of course you see free flow. As at yesterday, the entire stretch on the outbound Lagos, of course, it was free by noon. Everywhere we ensured that even where they go, the Warewa area, where people enter, to drive against traffic, we ensured that it was blocked, and so that there won't be any access for anybody to drive against traffic from there. And then, of course, the traffic officers are on ground to ensure free movement.
When the Berger axis, Berger up until maybe moving into Lagos was done, I thought that, you had a typology of what to expect if you were facing the current area, the portion that is being constructed now, the OPIC, and then outward Lagos. So what is the difference? Because when that bit was done, there wasn't this much hue and cry compared to what people are speaking about now. Why is that the case?
Just to explain this. As we speak, we are working at 2 different locations on that road. We are working at that OPIC area, that Kara area, and we are also working around 7-Up coming towards Otedola Bridge.
Okay.
We didn't experience this kind of problem on that stretch. The stretch from 7-Up up to Otedola Bridge, because there is no way for any driver to drive against traffic there. And work has been going on smoothly on that particular stretch. And in fact, that particular stretch is nearing completion. So, but on this other area, this is, a lot of people live along this axis, Arepo, Magboro, all this Ibafo area. So people live around there, and then you have some companies also within this area So all the access road by the side, that is where people now drive again. We are working presently now. Check from 0 to 2.8. That is about a $10 bridge on inbound Lagos. Work is moving on smoothly. We have no problem there. And that is even in the heart of Lagos.
Okay,
I mean, right in the heart of Lagos.
I heard
so this problem here has to do all this.
Okay, pardon me. I heard the submissions previously, so I just needed to be sure that it was the same scenario you were speaking to when, that's why I had to put the question that way. But those earth roads, because I know that the alternative routes towards maybe inward Lagos and opposite outward Lagos as well, where you had the fuel station and then close to the burger, those alternative roads have been worked on. But there are other roads, maybe downward, outward Lagos, close to where you are, and then under the bridge towards Kara area. Many thought that that area too might have been done to ease traffic and then towards the OPIC axis. What is the thinking about that?
Chamberlain, I just gave you a simple arithmetic now. Number one, those earth roads, they are not alternative roads to us. Where we are working, we have provided diversion, and then vehicles can move at the maximum allowable speed. And the maximum allowable speed is 30 kilometers an hour on construction zone. Even if you are driving at 20 kilometers an hour, and you have a stretch of 5 kilometers, within 15 minutes, 20 minutes, you are out of that place. Once there is no breakdown of vehicle, once there is no driving against traffic, once there is no accident. Even if there is any accident or any breakdown, we have towing vans, towing trucks are there to pull those vehicles off. But the problem has to do with those who cannot be patient enough to drive and then wait for their turn. So that is the issue. That is the crux of the matter. So the diversion that we have provided can allow two vehicles at the same time driving at 20 kilometers an hour. And within 20 minutes, 30 minutes maximum, you are out of that traffic.
Well, unfortunately, we're speaking about what should be in an ideal situation, and we know that it's never, unfortunately too, indiscipline, plays a huge role. And we know that you've done several roads and you see these traits time and again. So thought that could have been factored in. But we heard one of your officials speaking about plans being in place to ensure you work at night, such that the tailback, the impact is not felt that much during the day. Is that what is the latest on that now? Is that going to kick off, or has it kicked off at all?
Thank you. Night walk has nothing really to do with whether there is movement of vehicles or not, or gridlock. Night walk will only encourage it to assist us in meeting our delivery dates. Because once you move, once you excavate a stretch, you cannot come back in the morning and allow vehicles to run on that excavated stretch. So that is the issue. But it will help us to gain time and then deliver our road at the appropriate time. We have the presidential mandate to deliver this road before the end of this year.
Exactly.
And that is where we are.
I was just about to say, what exactly is the appropriate time, and how much longer do the people who are using that stretch of road have to, endure this gridlock?
As we speak, you see, that particular stretch is just about 1.3 kilometers.
Yes.
And that 1.3 kilometers, once it's completed, we move to the other side.
When will it be completed?
Well, it depends on so many factors. This is rainy season. Even the rains itself has the capacity to delay your works and whichever way. But we are there. We are working. So once we finish this stretch, we move on to the outbound Lagos.
You do not have a time frame in which you're hoping to finish one stretch?
I just told you now that everything depends on the weather.
Yes, but even with the weather, give or take, I'm sure you must have a calculation, give or take, we should be done in 4 weeks, give or take, we should be able to
on that particular stretch, whichever way, and I think within the next 4, 5, 6 weeks, we should be done with that area. We are moving very well.
That's for both sides?
No, for that stretch, for that inbound Lagos.
For that inbound Lagos, for the 1.23 kilometers?
1.3 kilometers.
1.3 kilometers. Yeah. So on the inbound, then you move to the other side.
We move to the outbound.
Why does it take so long? I mean, 6 weeks is quite a long time for 1.3 kilometers.
I factored in the weather. I factored in the weather.
Yeah, but even with the weather, 1.3 kilometers.
This is engineering works. We should tell you, what we are doing there is not maintenance. What we are doing there is the complete reconstruction of that road. And you need to be there and see what is happening. When you go down, you are excavating down, you need to import your materials, you need to compact, you need to carry out the test at different layers. And then, of course, if it rains, it takes you longer time. You need to factor in all those things. And then, because you have a moisture to contend with, there's a moisture content that we work with. And those are the issues that play around that area. So whichever way, we have a delivery day, like I mentioned to you, and that is December, and we are working very hard to ensure that.
Okay, well, we also hear that you're going to be working at night very soon. How quickly is that going to start,
Yes, like I was trying to explain to Chamberlain the other time. You see, night work is there. We are planning towards it. We need to look at issues of security.
Yes, your director in Lagos already explained, but what I'm saying is, can you give us more information? How quickly? In the next 1 week, in the next 2 weeks?
No, I can't give a time frame, but we are working out the modalities.
Okay, we have to thank you very much for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning. Mr. Adedamola Kuti is the Director of Federal Highway Southwest. Thank you so much for coming on Sunrise.
Can I just say this? You see, yes, for our people, we are really very sorry for what they are experiencing. I know it's not easy when people stay longer time, especially the law-abiding ones, but they need to please bear with us. We're on the final stretch. The sections we have completed, I think they are all enjoying it. I believe they are all enjoying it. So they should just bear with us to complete this final stretch. And let everybody, they are the beneficiaries in the long run.
Thank you so much for coming on Sunrise Daily. We have a few of your feedback now. I think this is from John Ugola. Let's see if you can quickly run through on State of the Nation. He says it is not enough for the candidates of the political parties to provide manifestos, which are merely aspirations. The candidates should equally provide concrete action plans and strategies to implement the manifestos, stating the timeframes, benchmarks, cost-benefit analysis, expected outputs, and measures to address unforeseen eventualities during implementation of their plans and strategies. This approach will demonstrate the knowledge of the national issues and readiness to address them. It will also enable citizens to hold the candidates and their political parties accountable. He says, God bless Nigeria. I say amen to that.
Well, incidentally, the message by Olatunji Badmus is about the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Unfortunately, we're unable to take it at this time. Thank you so much for being there and for giving us the privilege of being a part of your day. I'm Ayo Makide. Have a wonderful day.
I'm Chamberlain Oso. Goodbye.
So thank you for watching.